Welcome to Quotes for Life, Glowing Star, the place where words inspire action and positivity fuels growth. Every day brings new challenges, but with the right thoughts, you can rise above them. In today's video, we're diving into a powerful quote that can shift your perspective and bring clarity to your journey. Let's get started. Inner peace and clarity, the power of silence. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people think silence means the absence of sound, but in reality, silence is far more powerful than that. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is not weakness, it is strength. Within silence lies the ability to find peace and clarity, two things that are often missing in the noise and chaos of our everyday lives. In today's fast, moving world, we are surrounded by constant distractions, endless notifications, social media updates, the pressure to achieve more, and the noise of busy cities. Our minds rarely get a chance to rest. We are always running, always chasing, and always occupied with something. But what we don't realize is that this constant noise clouds our thinking. It makes us restless, confused, and disconnected from ourselves. This is where silence becomes a source of inner peace. When you step into silence, even for a short moment, something magical happens. The endless chatter of the mind begins to slow down, worries lose their intensity, and the weight of stress begins to lift. Silence creates space, a space where you can breathe, where you can pause, and where you can simply be. In this space, your mind becomes clearer. The fog of overthinking starts to fade, and you begin to see things as they truly are. Inner peace does not come from controlling the outside world. It comes from mastering your inner world. Silence is the bridge to that mastery. It is the calmness that helps you detach from unnecessary chaos and focus on what truly matters. When you allow yourself to sit in silence, you are no longer fighting against life. You are flowing with it. That stillness makes you feel lighter, calmer, and more balanced. Clarity is another gift of silence. In the noise of daily life, we often make decisions based on impulse, pressure, or fear. But when you give yourself a quiet moment, you begin to hear your own inner voice, the voice of intuition. That voice is often drowned by the noise of the world, but in silence it becomes loud and clear. It tells you what feels right, what aligns with your heart, and what path is best for your growth. Think of silence like a mirror. When the surface of a lake is disturbed, you cannot see your reflection clearly. But when the water is still, everything becomes clear. The same is true for the mind. A restless, noisy mind cannot reflect truth, but a silent and calm mind reveals clarity. This clarity guides you in relationships, in work, and in personal choices. Silence also teaches patience. In silence, you learn not to rush into answers, but to wait and allow clarity to rise naturally. It reminds you that not every problem needs an immediate reaction, and not every situation requires noise. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in being quiet, observing, and letting things unfold. If you wish to experience true inner peace, make silence a daily practice. It does not have to be hours of meditation. Even 5 minutes of quiet breathing without distractions can calm your mind and refresh your soul. Turn off your phone, close your eyes, and simply listen to your breath. In that silence, you will discover peace that no amount of external success can bring. In the end, silence is not an escape. It is a return to yourself, to your natural state of peace, and to the clarity that has always been within you. The more you embrace silence, the more you realize its power, the power to heal, the power to guide, and the power to bring light into the darkest corners of your mind. Deep self-reflection, the power of silence. Silence is not just about the absence of noise. It is about the presence of awareness. One of the greatest gifts of silence is the ability to turn inward and reflect on yourself. In a noisy world, we often lose touch with who we truly are. We get so busy chasing deadlines, pleasing others, or keeping up with society's demands that we forget to pause and ask ourselves, what do I truly want? What matters to me? Who am I becoming? Self-reflection is the art of looking within, and silence is the tool that makes this art possible. Without silence, self-reflection is nearly impossible. Imagine trying to see your reflection in a stormy ocean. It's scattered and unclear. But when the water becomes still, your reflection becomes visible. Similarly, silence stills the noise of the mind, allowing you to see yourself more clearly. When you sit in silence, you begin to notice your thoughts, your habits, and even your hidden fears. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, because silence brings up the things we usually run away from. All the suppressed emotions, the unresolved questions, and the worries we hide behind busyness start to surface. But this is where true self-reflection begins. Instead of pushing them away, you start to observe them. You begin to understand why you feel the way you do, why certain situations trigger you, and why you sometimes repeat the same mistakes. Through silence, you become your own teacher. You no longer look outside for validation or answers, because you realize the answers are already within you. Self-reflection gives you a deeper understanding of your values, your purpose, and your path in life. It allows you to separate what you truly want from what the world tells you to want. For example, you might realize that much of your stress comes not from your actual work, but from trying to meet other people's expectations. Or you might discover that the happiness you've been chasing in material things was always available in simple moments of presence. These realizations don't come through constant noise or distraction. They come through silence and self-reflection. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it helps you see patterns. When you pause and reflect, you notice how your past actions have shaped your present, and how your current choices are shaping your future. This awareness gives you the power to break negative cycles and create positive ones. You begin to see that every choice matters, and with clarity, you can choose differently. Self-reflection through silence also builds emotional maturity. Instead of reacting impulsively to situations, you start to respond with wisdom. Silence teaches you to pause before speaking, to think before acting, and to align your actions with your deeper values. This not only strengthens your relationship with yourself, but also improves your relationships with others. To practice deep self-reflection, you don't need to isolate yourself for weeks. A few quiet moments each day are enough. Sit in a peaceful place, close your eyes, and ask yourself gentle but powerful questions. How am I feeling today? What did I learn from my experiences? Am I living in alignment with my true self? Then allow the silence to bring you the answers. Over time, these reflections will transform the way you live. You will find greater confidence because you know yourself better. You will make better decisions because they come from inner clarity, not outside pressure. And you will experience more peace because you are no longer at war with yourself. Ultimately, silence and self-reflection help you discover the most important relationship of all, the relationship with yourself. When you truly know and understand yourself, you no longer feel lost in the noise of the world. You stand firm, rooted in who you are, and that inner strength becomes your guiding light. Better listening skills the power of silence. One of the most underestimated strengths of silence is its ability to transform the way we listen. In today's fast-paced world, most people listen only to reply, not to understand. Conversations often turn into competitions where each person waits for their chance to speak rather than truly hearing what the other person is saying. But silence changes that dynamic. Silence makes us better listeners, and being a good listener is one of the most powerful skills a human being can develop. When you embrace silence, you learn to pause, to be present, and to give your full attention to the other person. Instead of interrupting, instead of planning what to say next, you allow yourself to really absorb their words. This kind of listening goes beyond the surface. It helps you hear not only what is spoken, but also what is unspoken. The emotions, the hesitations, the pain, or the joy behind the words. Why is silence so powerful in listening? Because silence removes the ego from the conversation. The ego always wants to defend, to prove, to argue, or to show off knowledge. But silence humbles you. It teaches you that you don't need to dominate every conversation to be respected. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply listen deeply. Think about the last time someone truly listened to you, without distractions, without judgment, without rushing you. Didn't it feel healing? Didn't it feel as though your words mattered? That is the gift of silence in listening. It gives the other person the space to feel heard, valued, and understood, and in turn, it deepens trust and strengthens relationships. Better listening also leads to wisdom. When you listen more than you speak, you learn more. You gain new perspectives, you understand other people's experiences, and you begin to see the world through eyes other than your own. Silence allows you to take in knowledge instead of constantly giving out noise. The wise are not the loudest people in the room. They are the ones who listen the most. Silence also improves your listening to yourself. When you practice quiet listening with others, you naturally develop the habit of listening inwardly. You start to notice your own thoughts, emotions, and body signals more clearly. This inner listening helps you recognize when you need rest, when you need change, and when you need growth. It keeps you connected to your authentic self. In daily life, practicing silence in conversations can change everything. Instead of rushing to fill gaps with words, try allowing moments of pause. Don't be afraid of silence in dialogue. It often gives people the courage to open up more deeply. Sometimes the most meaningful parts of a conversation happen in the quiet spaces, where emotions surface more honestly than words ever could. To cultivate better listening through silence, try these simple steps. When someone speaks, give them your full attention. Put aside your phone and distractions. Resist the urge to interrupt, even if you have something valuable to say. Observe their body language, tone, and emotions, not just their words. Allow pauses in the conversation. Silence doesn't mean awkwardness. It means respect. Reflect back what you heard to show understanding. Over time, this practice of silent listening will reshape your connections. People will naturally be drawn to you, not because you always have the right words, but because you make them feel understood. And in a world full of noise, being truly understood is a rare gift. Ultimately, silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of attention. When you listen in silence, you create a sacred space where hearts connect more deeply than words ever could. This is the power of silence. It turns ordinary conversations into meaningful exchanges and builds bridges of trust and compassion. Emotional healing, the power of silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is medicine. In a world that constantly demands our attention and energy, silence provides a space where emotional wounds can finally begin to heal. Too often, we carry hidden pain memories from the past, unspoken words, disappointments, and unresolved emotions. Instead of facing them, we bury them beneath busyness, noise, and distractions. But the truth is, what we avoid only grows heavier. Healing begins when we stop running and allow silence to hold us. When you step into silence, you create a safe space for your emotions to rise to the surface. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. Painful memories may reappear, and suppressed feelings like sadness, anger, or guilt may demand your attention. But silence teaches us not to fear these emotions. Instead, it allows us to observe them with compassion, without judgment. Just like a wound heals faster when exposed to fresh air, emotional wounds heal when given the space of silence. Silence also helps us release negative emotions. When the mind is constantly filled with noise, anger and resentment get recycled again and again, fueling stress and suffering. But in silence, you learn to let go. The stillness of silence teaches you that you don't need to carry the weight of every painful moment. By observing your emotions without clinging to them, you slowly dissolve their power over you. What once felt overwhelming becomes lighter, and you begin to regain balance. Emotional healing through silence also comes from reconnecting with your heart. Often, we are so focused on pleasing others or meeting expectations that we forget to check in with ourselves. Silence reminds you to ask, what do I truly feel? What do I truly need? These simple questions, asked in stillness, can bring clarity to confusion and direction to chaos. Sometimes the answers are not immediate, but with patience, silence reveals truths that your busy mind had long ignored. Another important aspect of silence in emotional healing is forgiveness. When you sit in stillness, you may recognize how tightly you've been holding onto grudges against others, and even against yourself. Silence gives you the courage to release this burden. It whispers that forgiveness is not about excusing wrongs, but about freeing yourself from the chains of bitterness. Through silence, you begin to see that peace is more valuable than resentment, and that letting go is the ultimate act of self-love. Silence also soothes the nervous system. Scientific studies show that quiet moments reduce stress hormones, lower blood pressure, and improve emotional stability. This is why practices like meditation and mindful breathing are so healing. They allow the body and mind to rest, repair, and recharge. In silence, your entire being returns to its natural rhythm, where healing can take place effortlessly. To experience emotional healing through silence, you don't need to escape to a mountain retreat. You can begin right where you are. Start with just a few minutes each day. Turn off all distractions, close your eyes, and simply breathe. Allow whatever emotions arise to come without resistance. If tears fall, let them. If memories appear, acknowledge them. If peace comes, embrace it. Each moment of silence is a step toward wholeness. Over time, this practice will lighten your heart. You will feel less controlled by your past and more open to the present. You will notice that the things which once disturbed you lose their power, because silence has taught you how to hold them with calm awareness. In the end, silence is not a void. It is a sanctuary. It is the quiet space where pain turns into wisdom, where wounds turn into strength, and where the heart learns to love again. Emotional healing is not about forgetting the past. It is about learning to carry it with grace, and silence gives you the strength to do exactly that. Strength and self-control, the power of silence. Many people think strength is about how loud you can be, how fast you can react, or how forcefully you can defend yourself. But true strength is far quieter. True strength is found in silence, in the ability to stay calm when others lose control, in the power to pause instead of react, and in the discipline to master your own mind before trying to master the world. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength refined into self-control. When we live in a noisy, fast, moving society, we are constantly pressured to respond quickly. Whether it's an argument, a criticism, or a stressful situation, the world teaches us that reacting immediately is a sign of power. But in reality, most quick reactions are driven by ego and emotion, not by wisdom. Anger makes us say things we regret. Impulse makes us take actions that harm us. In contrast, silence gives us a moment of pause, a sacred space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies the power of choice. Self-control begins with silence. When you choose not to react instantly, you allow your emotions to settle. What seemed unbearable in the heat of the moment may appear much smaller once your mind is calm. Instead of adding fuel to the fire, silence gives you the ability to put out flames with patience and understanding. This does not mean you are weak or submissive. It means you are strong enough to control yourself, rather than letting anger or fear control you. Think of a tree in a storm. The strong tree does not break. It bends. In the same way, silence teaches us resilience. By practicing self-control, you remain steady even when life throws challenges your way. This inner strength becomes your shield, protecting your peace of mind and guiding you to respond wisely instead of recklessly. Another dimension of strength through silence is discipline. In silence, you learn to resist temptations, the temptation to argue unnecessarily, to waste time on distractions, or to seek validation from others. Silence trains you to focus inward, to hold back when it's not the right time, and to act only when your actions serve a higher purpose. This discipline creates a powerful sense of inner freedom. You are no longer a prisoner of impulses. You are the master of your choices. Silence also gives strength in communication. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Choosing not to engage in arguments, not to reply to negativity, and not to justify yourself in every situation is a sign of maturity. When you remain silent in the face of provocation, you show strength that words could never convey. People begin to respect you, not because you talk the most, but because you demonstrate control and wisdom. Self-control through silence is also deeply connected to emotional intelligence. By pausing before reacting, you become more aware of your own emotions and the emotions of others. This awareness allows you to respond with empathy rather than hostility, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for understanding. In this way, silence becomes a tool not only for personal growth, but also for building stronger relationships. Practicing silence for self-control control can be simple. Whenever you feel triggered, take a deep breath and count to 3 before speaking. When faced with criticism, listen fully before deciding whether a response is even necessary. When your emotions are intense, retreat into silence even for a few minutes before making decisions. These small acts of silence build the muscle of self-control over time. Ultimately, silence teaches us that strength is not about overpowering others. It is about mastering ourselves. A person who can remain calm in chaos, silent in anger, and patient in difficulty is far stronger than one who shouts the loudest. In the end, silence is not just about holding your tongue. It is about holding your power. It is about choosing peace over conflict, wisdom over impulse, and clarity over chaos. This is the strength that lasts, the strength that inspires, and the strength that leads to true freedom. Spiritual growth, the power of silence, is not just a tool for peace of mind or emotional balance. It is also a sacred doorway to spiritual growth. Throughout history, wise teachers, saints, and seekers from every tradition have turned to silence as a path to higher understanding. This is because silence takes us beyond the surface of life, beyond the noise of the world, and connects us to something deeper, our soul, our essence, our true self. In everyday life, we are constantly distracted by voices around us and voices within us. The world demands our attention, notifications, conversations, responsibilities, and endless tasks. At the same time, our minds create internal noise, worries, doubts, desires, and judgments. This constant chatter keeps us tied to the surface of existence. But silence cuts through this noise. It draws us inward, toward the still center within us where true wisdom resides. Spiritual growth begins when we realize that silence is not emptiness but fullness. In silence, we discover that we are not just our thoughts, emotions, or roles in society. We are more than our successes and failures, more than the stories we tell ourselves. Silence reveals the deeper truth of our being, the awareness that watches everything, the presence that has always been there. This recognition is the foundation of spiritual awakening. Silence also deepens mindfulness. When you practice being quiet, you become more aware of the present moment. You begin to notice the subtle beauty of life, the sound of the wind, the rhythm of your breath, the stillness between heartbeats. These simple observations bring you into alignment with the flow of existence. Instead of being lost in past regrets or future worries, silence grounds you in the eternal now, where peace and divinity dwell. Another way silence supports spiritual growth is through meditation. Nearly every spiritual tradition honors meditation or contemplative silence as a path to higher consciousness. In meditation, silence allows the mind to quiet down, creating space for deeper insights and profound experiences of unity. It is in silence that people often feel closest to the divine, whether they call it God, the universe, or the higher self. This quiet communion nourishes the soul in ways that words never can. Silence also teaches humility. When we are silent, we realize we don't have all the answers, and we don't always need to prove ourselves. Instead, we open ourselves to learning, to listening, and to receiving guidance from life itself. This humility softens the ego and strengthens the spirit. It transforms arrogance into wisdom and impatience into patience. Spiritual growth through silence also awakens compassion. As you go inward, you begin to see yourself more clearly, the struggles, the imperfections, and the beauty within. This self-awareness makes you more understanding toward others. You realize that just like you, everyone is fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens. This realization opens your heart and deepens your capacity to love unconditionally. Practicing silence for spiritual growth does not mean you need to retreat from the world completely. Even in the middle of daily life, you can create moments of inner stillness. It may be as simple as starting your day with a few minutes of quiet reflection, taking mindful pauses between tasks, or ending your evening in silence before sleep. These small acts of quietness open the door to greater awareness. In the end, silence is a teacher. It teaches us patience, humility, presence, and connection to something greater than ourselves. It reminds us that the most profound truths cannot be spoken. They can only be felt in the stillness of the heart. Spiritual growth is not about adding more to your life. It is about peeling away the layers of noise, distraction, and illusion until your true essence shines through. Silence is the path that allows this unfolding. When you embrace silence, you don't just find peace, you find yourself. And in finding yourself, you find the divine. This is the ultimate power of silence. It leads you home to the eternal spirit within. Thank you for spending these few moments with me today. If today's quote inspired you, remember, it's not just about hearing the words, it's about living them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss your daily dose of inspiration. Dizzy, and let me know in the comments what quote or thought touched your heart the most. Until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and always choose growth. This is Quotes for Life, reminding you, your best life begins with your best thoughts.